Quote, I think it's just change. I don't know that it's a divorce. 20 years together is a long time. I can't tell you the hundreds of times Tommy has said Bill is the best coach in football. Tommy sings Bill's praises. Divorce sounds a little bit harsh. It is probably the most asked question in the NFL over the last 2 decades. Is it Brady or is it Bill? Who is most responsible for the unprecedented run of success the Patriots have enjoyed over 20 years? Maybe this year we will finally find out. Meanwhile, it seems worth reminding you that while there is no way to evaluate Brady without Bill, because it has never happened, there is plenty of data to evaluate Bill without Brady. And for whatever it's worth, it's not a pretty picture. Bill Belichick coached exactly 100 games before Tom Brady's first start. He was 42-58. Most of that was in Cleveland, where he took over a Browns team that had made the playoffs 5 out of 6 years. He coached them 5 seasons. He had losing records in 4. By the way, Nick Saban was his defensive coordinator 4 of those 5 seasons. And yes, the ending was a terrible situation. The team planning to relocate to Baltimore. Factor that in however you like. Then he went to New England. Belichick was 5-13 with Drew Bledsoe, #1 overall draft pick, at quarterback. Then Brady took over. In his first start, he beat Peyton Manning and the Colts by 31 points as a double-digit underdog. He then went 13-3 the rest of the way and won the Super Bowl. Brady went on to average 28 points a game as a starter over his Patriots career. That is the most by any quarterback ever. In games started by anyone else, Belichick's teams have averaged 19 points. Brady also won 6 playoff games in which his team allowed 28 or more points. No other quarterback has ever won more than 2. And Brady made himself a salary cap bargain. In none of his championship seasons was Brady a top 10 cap hit in the league. So what does all of this mean? Certainly doesn't necessarily take anything away from Belichick as a coach. I believe he is the greatest in the history of American team sports. But the facts are the facts. So if he is ever going to accomplish anything without Tom Brady, he's going to have to start doing it now. That's what I say and what the numbers say. Let's see what my guys say. Marcus, Swagoo, Spears, I give you the first crack at this. What do you think?
First of all, the damn down barrels are the greatest thing on this show, man. That's number one. The second thing is this, man. Greeny, you can't point out a great coach or a coach that we think is the GOAT per se without one of the players being the GOAT. Look at all of the relationships over the history of sports. Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan, Phil Jackson, Kobe Bryant. We look in college. We look at John Wooden with Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, known as. We look at all of these greats, Steve Walsh, Joe Montana. It is a correlation. You have to have the guys that can execute whatever plan you're giving them and even sometimes overcome when the plan is not all that great. Like to your point, it does not take away from Bill Belichick being arguably the greatest coach of all time. But find me a marriage in the history of team sports where we've mentioned the coach being the greatest of all time without a player on that team being the greatest of all time or top 1 or 2 in whatever job they're doing, and you can prove me wrong. But until I don't see it, I've never seen it, not to take anything away from any coach that's ever done great things.
Go ahead, Dan.
Tom Brady is one of those guys where you will be mentioned as greatest of all time.
Yeah, Marcus, you're wrong. Greeny, during the commercial break, you had said this down barrel is fire. And out of respect, I was like, man, Greeny, you've had some good down barrels. And that was the best one ever. I mean, 2 things stood out to me. I did not know that the 5 years previous to Bill Belichick becoming the head coach of the Browns, they went to the playoffs 4 out of 5 seasons.
That was
surprising to me.
5 out of 6 seasons.
5 out of 6, I'm sorry. And then the second thing was the fact that Brady has averaged more points as a starting quarterback than anyone else, and he had 6 wins when his defense gave up 28 points in the playoffs or more. Like, those are some startling numbers to me that really encapsulate an argument. And really, I mean, I'm trying to be dead serious here. Like, I kind of leaned towards Brady for a while now, but hearing the reality of these numbers, and you can't run from some of these things, it only pounds home, pounds the point to me that this is a Brady-driven thing, and that was the best down barrel that you've ever done.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to make a lot of people
Marcus,
really angry in New England. Marcus, you're wrong.
Go ahead, Marcus.
How do you get them dead wrong? I just sat here and gave you a soliloquy about if you're going to be mentioned as the greatest coach of all time, 9 times out of 10, you had the best player either of that era or of all time.
Here's the thing, though. In no other sport, and maybe this is because we correctly believe that the coach is more important in football than it is in any other sport. But in no other sport do we say, was it Michael or was it Phil? Was it Kobe or was it Phil? Was it Duncan or was it Pop? Was it Auerbach or was it Bill Russell? We always say, of course it was the player. The coach, there's no doubt, Phil Jackson was a major contributor to the Bulls winning all those championships. But Michael Jordan was the reason that they won them. Only in football do we wonder this aloud. And I just thought it was worth spelling out all of the ways in which Brady changed everything.
It's always the player. I'm with Dan. It's always my point in saying, if you are mentioned as the greatest coach of all time, by and large, you have the greatest player of all time, or one of the most generational game-changing players in the history of the game. There's someone, I'm gonna leave it alone after this. Somebody has to execute. Somebody has to go out there on their field to play and execute at a high level if you're going to be mentioned as the greatest coach of all time.
We will bring this back.
Marcus, the point of the down barrel, is to prove that since there was that execution, maybe that coach is viewed differently than he would have been without it. Like, that's the point of the down barrel, dude, is to realize the player executed it.
And I have to leave it here. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.